up the idea also is to open it up for question and answers, right? So all of you are part of the May 11th Everest Base Camp, and chances are that I would be on the trail with you, and I would be trekking alongside with you as well. So that'll be great, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to even interact on the call right now. So what we are looking at is we are looking at about 11 days of trekking, and the highest point that we are aiming to get to is this place called Kalapathar, which is very much part of the itinerary, but also it's optional. So what happens is that after you finish the Everest Base Camp, there is a small mountain next to Gorakshep, which is our last village, where we can actually climb about 3 hours in the morning hours, let's say about 3:34 in the morning, and some people do climb Kalapathar to get great views of Everest. So that is the maximum altitude potential that we have to reach. Of course, if you've set your eyes only on Everest Base Camp, that's absolutely good as well. And we are looking at reaching a height of 5,365 meters on Everest Base Camp. This is just a visual representation of how our journey is going to start. So if you look at absolutely the bottom of the screen, which is Lukla at 2,800 meters, we're going to start our journey from here. And I'll be honest with you, reaching Lukla in itself is a big adventure and a big challenge, right? We've had three groups that we finished for Everest Base Camp this season, and unfortunately, none of them have made it to Lukla on time. There have been delays. There have been longer waiting times. One group also had to use their buffer day. But of course, we will talk about Lukla. But it is our responsibility to get you to Lukla, and we will get you to Lukla. Whether on day one or on day two, depending on the weather, of course. And then from Lukla, when we land, we directly start trekking. It's a very interesting airport. To give you a perspective, there are no roads, there are no vehicles. The pilot just literally throws your bag off the aircraft, you pick it up and you start walking. So it's as interesting as that. But of course, our porters will be there, so they will help you, pick up the bags and carry the bags. But the trail literally starts from the airport. So your starting point is Lukla Airport and your finishing point is also an airport. So that's very interesting. We slowly make our way, of course, to the famous Namche Bazaar on day two, which is at 3,400 meters. And then we kind of go right on the map. So there is this place called Tengboche, which is the famous monastery. And then also we go higher up to this place called Dingboche, which is 4,350 meters, if you can see on my screen. And then we go higher up towards this place called Labuche. I'm talking of the white dots and not the yellow, which is at almost at 4,950 meters, and then onwards to Everest Base Camp. The trek is panned out in a very good, orderly way, because the way it really happens is that we trek for the first 2 days, which is Fagding and Namche. Day one and day two is what we trek. Day three, we rest and acclimatize, you know, which is good. Again, day four and day five, we trek. Day six, again, we rest and acclimatize. So if you notice the pattern, 2 days of trekking, 1 day of rest and acclimatization, 2 days of trekking, 1 day again of rest and acclimatization, which is day six. Day seven, we trek again. And then by day eight, you reach Everest Base Camp. So that's how it's kind of spaced out really well. It does give your body enough time to rest and acclimatize. And of course, on day nine is when we start our journey back. Our journey back is the same route, but what happens is that on the way back, one, we don't need acclimatization because your body is already acclimatized, and on the way back, you're losing altitude. And also, what happens is that we are covering much more longer distances. So Everest Base Camp is only the 50% mark. You're only safely back when you're back to the Lukla airport. So on the way back, we are actually looking at covering about 18 to 20 kilometers of distance every day over 3 days. So it does become a long and a challenging walk, right? Um, these are some pictures, these are views that you will get. One of you shared also a very beautiful picture in the morning. So thank you for that. We will be getting all these views. The way the weather really works on Everest Base Camp, honestly, is that it's always a 50-50. And I will be honest with you. What I mean by that is that in our 11 days of trekking, we do expect about 4 to 5 days of good weather. We do expect about 3 to 4 days of bad weather, and we also expect about 1 to 2 days of okay weather. So there will be days when you will get very nice views. There will also be days when you will be walking in a complete cloud cover and you will not be able to see any mountains. But then again, the next day is a fresh day again, and you again get great views, and the cycle kind of continues. Typically, post 3 in the afternoon, the clouds would always roll in. So even if the first half is kind of sunny, we would usually have late afternoons will be cloudy. We also do expect some very light drizzle here and there, but we are not expecting any heavy rain as such because April and May are the right seasons to trek to Everest Base Camp. Some form of precipitation, some form of light drizzle, these are things that can always happen after 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So of course, one needs to be kind of ready for that. Before we move on to the accommodation, I just want to take a minute and I want to talk about, I feel, the single most important thing on this trek, which honestly is your physical fitness preparation. And now, even though we are almost towards the end, we are more or less, we more or less have, I think, about 3 weeks to go for this trek. And the last 3 weeks also become important because this is when you can shift into the fourth gear or the fifth gear and can kind of make a little bit of difference as to what you're really doing for the next 3 weeks. Um, I'm going to keep it very simple. For the next 3 weeks, we need you to indulge in some very intense cardio activities for at least 4 days or 5 days a week. Now, what I mean by that is that uh, if you're doing something 4 days or 5 days a week, there are three activities that we recommend. If you are into any form of jogging or running, and if you can do that, and if your knees and your body supports, then go for a run. If you can't, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. The second best exercise that we highly recommend is climbing stairs. So at least 3 days in a week, we would recommend and request that all of you spend about 30 minutes climbing stairs. Very simple. Don't take the stairs back, take the lift down, climb up, take the lift down. So 10 floors, if you're doing it 5 times up and down, you're already doing 50 floors. Every week, if you increase it by 1 floor, also by the end of third week, you're already doing 70 or 80 floors as well, which is absolutely great. The third activity that we recommend is that you get on a treadmill, you put it on an incline, and you walk for about 45 minutes to an hour. But you put it on an incline where it makes you uncomfortable. If you're usually doing something which is on an incline of 4 or 6, see if you can put it as a 7 or a 8. So basically, the idea for the next 3 weeks will be that you need to push yourself that extra 10%. You need to make sure that your heart rate is going up. You're playing with your heart rate up to 140, 150, 160, of course, depending on your physiology and what kind of activities do you do now. But I'll be very honest, if you're going for a simple 45-minute walk around your apartment complex, maybe listening to music, that will not cut it for Everest Base Camp. That is okay to maintain journal fitness. That is okay to get your steps in and burn some basic calories here and there. But for Everest Base Camp, now some gears need to be changed. And the more you're able to put yourself out of that comfort zone, that 10%, 20%, you go and you decide today I'm going to do treadmill for 45 minutes. But then can you push it for 50 or 55? You're doing 50 floors, but let me push to 70 today. Those are things that will matter. But other than that, we have no doubt that all of you have already been preparing well and have been on a fitness journey from anywhere for the last 1 month to 3 months. So we are not worried. On the mountain, when we walk, there is nothing slow, there's nothing fast. The only thing is that we want you all to be very, very comfortable, and that will always be our endeavor. What pace do you walk at? There is only one answer to that, and the answer to that is that the best pace is your pace. That's it. There's nothing slow, there's nothing fast. There will always be a lead guide. There will always be a guide who will be in the end and who will be sweeping. So it does not matter whether you are slow or you're fast. It does not matter whether you reach the lodge at 2 in the afternoon, at 3 in the afternoon, or even at 4 in the afternoon. Trust me, because once you reach the lodge, all you're doing is you're changing clothes and you're just sipping on coffee. You rather be outside, you rather be comfortable, you rather be taking pictures, you rather be walking at your own pace, right? So we will always encourage that you walk at your own pace. Even if it is slow, it is absolutely okay. And uh, we will always be supporting you in that. But of course, as I said, the next 3 weeks will be critical. I will just quickly jump on to the accommodation. As you would know that, the accommodation on the Everest Trail is a lot to do about lodges and tea houses. One is not staying in tents and one is not staying in camps. So that's a little bit of a luxury, I would say, as compared to treks in India. There are different kind of accommodation available. Some of you have gone with rooms with attached washrooms. Some of you have decided to rough it out a little more and have probably taken rooms with common washrooms also. And all of it is absolutely good. They're clean, they're hygienic, they're okay to use. This is how a typical room would look like. Of course, this is only like one picture. The one on the right is this one place called Debuche at Rivendell, which is a little bit of a luxurious place. So that's a picture of that. But we will be staying here as well. But every day you will be having good accommodation. But you need to mentally be prepared that the last 2 days of your trek, which is at Labuche at 4,950 meters and Gorakshep, which is at 5,000 meters, these two places, the accommodation is very basic. There are no rooms with attached washrooms. So even if you've opted for a room with an attached washroom, Labucha and Gorakshep, that facility is not there. Uh, the bathrooms are okay. They're not the cleanest. It's not that people don't want to keep it clean. What happens at these places is the water freezes. The average temperature is up to 0 degrees, -5 degrees in the night, and the water freezes. So there's no fresh plumbing, the flushes are not working. So, all those things will happen, but we need to be in that mindset. This is an adventure. This is, probably the highest that all of us will ever go in terms of height at 18 and a half thousand feet trekking, and we need to rough it out. So, as I said, our team will always be there to support you in every single thing. So yeah, that's about the accommodation. Of course, we would be sharing a list with you, the packing list. The single most important thing in the packing list, ladies and gentlemen, is your shoes. So we really hope that you've bought your shoes till now. If you haven't, we would recommend that in the next week or so, you should definitely pick up your shoes so that you get at least 10 to 15 days properly to break in into your shoes. And that becomes extremely important because you need to be very comfortable. You would be spending about 8 to 10 hours every day in those shoes for about 10 days. So you need to make sure that the shoes are well broken into. Other than that, any of these things, if you don't have, please buy it from Thamil, from Kathmandu. We've personally spoken to some of you and recommended that a lot of good gear is available in Kathmandu. You will have the time because irrespective of what time are you landing, the shops are just outside your hotel. Just 5 minutes walking from your hotel literally will be at least 20 to 30 good trekking shops selling some really good gear. So if you need anything like a fleece or a down or a good wind cheater, trekking pants, water bottle, anything in that list, our team will assist you and we will help you to we will get you to some shops. We will recommend to you what to buy, what not to buy, and you're free to go and shop. So we will be sharing this list with you. So yeah, pack according to the list. That becomes really important. All right. On that note, this is some basic information that I want to share. Maybe some of you were already aware of it, and I hope it was helpful. We are now open to question and answers because that's a very important part of this call. So please go ahead. Please know that there's no question which is a stupid question. Whatever is coming to your mind, please go ahead and ask, and we'll be happy to answer.
I have one question,
Yes,
Suraj.
Vinay.
Uh, you are providing 2 days for acclimatization.
That's correct.
Everybody has different body, and supposing if you feel that maybe one additional day is required for acclimatization, so what is the provision for that?
No, Vinay, that's a good question. And as I said in the middle, that everybody is on their own journey and everybody is encouraged to walk at their uh, own pace as well. So if in a condition where somebody, let's say, is not able to cope up with the altitude and has to, let's say, stay back at a particular place, That is possible, and the reason for that is that we always have enough staff on the ground. But yes, what will happen is that one will have to break away from the group, but that's also fine because the staff will be there. The staff will take care of you. You can always come the next day to the next destination. So from our side, we can make that provision. It's just that you will not then be walking with the group. But it's more important to finish the journey safely and successfully, and we can organize for that. So that's not a problem.
Why I asked this question is because I had gone to Mansarovar
Hmm.
and I have taken a route of via Lhasa.
Right,
And, we stayed in Lhasa for 3 days and then drove all the way to Mansarovar. There was plenty of time for acclimatization. So, when we reached 15,000, 16,000 feet and started the Kailash Yatra,
right,
the trekking, the body was quite decently acclimatized without even taking Dimox.
right.
I had not taken any Dimox and I could comfortably go up to 16,500. But of course, two things. One is that was quite a bit, a few years back. I was much younger at that time. And so, I mean, I personally feel that if body is acclimatized properly, the chances of succeeding is much higher.
No, absolutely. In fact, acclimatization is probably the single most important thing because if your body is not able to cope up, then one will obviously struggle, and that's the reason that these two acclimatization days are built in. But as I said,
Mm.
it's one's own journey, and we will always support. And we've had cases, so it's not that it's uncommon. It has happened that somebody's walked with the group the first 3 to 4 days, but then has
Mhm.
not been able to cope up for the altitude, but is also not unwell enough to turn back. So we have left one of our guides with the person, and has the person has made sure that after resting for one more day at a slower pace, has slowly made their way to Everest Base Camp. So these things are common; they always happen. But of course,
Okay.
we need to follow an itinerary and a plan for the larger group, and of course, that's why this itinerary is in place. But as I said, don't worry. Case to case basis, it can happen with anyone, and we will always support in anything that we can do.
Okay. One more question. Uh, I'm sure you were carrying all the some essential medicines and the gear for emergencies, your medical kit and medical aid. This thing. Would you like to highlight few things on this thing, the precautions we take?
Vinay, yes, absolutely. The precautions actually start from something very basic. Acclimatization is actually the single most important thing that we also look out for. We look out for signs for AMS, which are acute mountain sickness. And of course, as you rightly said, you did not take Dimox, but it's a personal choice. So I think in this group, there would be some people who may be taking a Dimox. There may be some people who may not be taking a Dimox, and that's absolutely fine. What we do from our side is that every day in the evening, we check oxygen readings for all the trekkers and all the participants. More importantly, we look out for signs which are, let's say, for example, nausea or lack of appetite. The moment somebody misses a meal, that kind of becomes a red flag because headache, nausea, and loss of appetite, they're the three most visible and common signs of AMS, right? So if somebody is missing a meal or if somebody is oxygen saturation is low, we're the first ones to kind of make sure that we give them a Dimox. The good thing is that there are clinics available on the way. There are doctors available on the way. So, for example, Namche has a proper hospital. Dingboche has a proper hospital. Gorakshep has a clinic. Lukla has a hospital. So you're actually kind of, very well, you have a very good access and you're very well connected. The third thing that happens is that in case of an extreme emergency, and this is something which only happens in Nepal, more or less, is the helicopters are available for evacuation. Anywhere you trek in India, for example, there are no heli evacs available. Of course, they're expensive in Nepal also, but at least the option is there that we can get people out. Our primary endeavor always is that we never want anybody to reach a stage where they will have to be helied out. The endeavor is to always take pre-precautions. If we feel that somebody is not able to acclimatize, and even after taking Dimox of 2 days, that person is still oxygen saturation is low, the person is still skipping meals, we will be the first ones to turn the person back down. to a lower and a safer altitude. So the idea is just never to get to a stage where now suddenly we're calling a helicopter. Of course, if there's an extreme case and somebody's twisted an ankle and is not able to walk at all, then you have an option of a horse or a heli. But yes, we've had cases where we've had discussion with people saying, now listen, it's been 2 days you've been taking a Dimox. I don't think you should go up, and we're sending a guide with you, and you slowly start walking down. And of course, those cases do happen. So these are some of the things that we will be looking at, Vinay.
Um, what about the food wise? What kind of food do we expect?
No, that's a good question, and I think that's a question some other people also have. In terms of the food, the way it works is that because you're staying in lodges, these lodges or tea houses are primarily family run, and the good thing is that they present you with a proper menu card, and it's a very elaborate menu card. So right from some basic Indian food like dal chawal sabji, they call it DBT, so dal bhat tarkari, and it becomes very interesting because all the Sherpas would always eat dal bhat tarkari and they would keep on saying DBT power 24 hour. So that is something that we also recommend that you eat dal because the dal sabji rice is freshly cooked like a vegetarian thali. There is no concept of rotis or chapatis there, so it's mostly rice based. But because this trek has been dominated by Europeans and Americans for many years, the menu is extensive. So you have a choice of ordering soup, pizzas, pastas, fried rice, noodles, momos, thupkas, as I said, Indian food, popcorn, French fries. So the way it works is that for breakfast, lunch, dinner, most of the things are available, common things are available, and you're free to order what you like. One dish for breakfast, one for lunch, one for dinner, whatever you like, you can order. So that's how the food works.
So this food is basically is all provided by you guys only, right?
That's correct, Vinay. Yes. So the way the food works is that your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner is included in the package. So one order,
Hmm.
so if in for example, if you order like DBT, that's included. But with DBT, if you want to order a special plate of French fries, then that's not included. So let's say you order like veg chow mein for your dinner, and that's fine. But after that, if you want to order a dessert, then that's not included. So three meals are included, three beverages are included, which is with every meal you can order a tea or a coffee. But let's say on the trail you find like a really nice bakery, you just want to get in and get an apple pie or a cappuccino, then of course those are bills that you directly need to clear. But from our side, the breakfast, lunch, dinner is included.
How much amount cash should we carry?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think someone else also had that question. So typically the way that, the calculation that we recommend to people is that just for simple calculation, you should typically carry about 1,000 Indian rupees every day for the trek. So if you convert that, that will come to about Nepali 1,500 to 1,600. So let's say for about 11 days of trekking, you're talking of about 11,000 Indian rupees, which is roughly about 15 to 16,000 Nepali rupees or so. Now, where is it that you will spend this money because your basic food is included? As I said, extra snacks, extra tea, coffee is where you'll spend this money. Um, the Interestingly, even hot water is counted as an extra beverage in these lodges. You need to understand that resources are very limited. There's a porter who's practically carrying a gas cylinder for 5 days and getting it to the lodge, let's say at Labuche. So if you like order, let's say a hot pot of like 1 liter of hot water, even that will cost you like let's say 200 Nepali rupees. So, especially the last 2 to 3 days, people end up buying like some hot water. The other thing that you will end up spending money is your Wi-Fi. So, Wi-Fi typically varies between 500 to 700 Nepali rupees one for a 24-hour cycle for one day. So, typically extra snacks, coffee, Wi-Fi, and hot water towards the last 3 days. These are the things that most people end up spending the money that they carry. But as I said, if you do a calculation of about 1,000 Indian rupees per day, that should be kind of good enough.
What about the mobile connections and Wi-Fi
So
and
the good
charging?
thing, yeah, so the good thing is when that Wi-Fi is there every day on all the lodges. So,
Hmm.
of course, it's paid and you can directly buy it from the lodge or from the tea house. As I said, it can vary between 500 to 700 Nepali rupees for the Wi-Fi. But you have an option of buying the Wi-Fi card and entering the password in your phone every day for all 11 days. So if you want, you cannot be disconnected. Um, what about the SIM card? Because somebody has also asked about the SIM card. So when you exit the airport, we highly recommend that from the airport only, from the tourist counter, you buy a NTC SIM card. So there are two service providers. There's Ncell and there is NTC, and we will put it on the group also so that it's there for reference. NTC works pretty much out of 11 days. NTC SIM card will work for like 9 days. And if you get an Ncell SIM card, that's also fine. That out of the 11 days, that works for about 6 to 7 days. So you also have the option of like using your SIM card with data. And if one or two locations, if the SIM card is not working well, then you can just buy the Wi-Fi. So the connectivity is really good. And every day you have some options of the Wi-Fi to connect. So it's not a problem.
If you can ask somebody in your team to make a small write-up on this connection and Wi-Fi mobile this thing, and where to buy, is it better to buy this SIM card at Kathmandu or in Lukla or where?
Yes, Vinay. We'll send it on the group. We'll send a write-up on the group. That's not a problem. The
Hmm.
SIM card is better to buy at the airport only, at Kathmandu International Airport when you land. And the reason for that is that, it's easy for a tourist there because they have a tourist counter. They just scan your passport, they just take a picture and they immediately issue a SIM card to you within like 5 to 10 minutes. In the market, it gets difficult because in the market, then they need documents, then they need like local address proof and all that, which of course is not there because you're a tourist there. So we highly recommend that you pick it up from the Kathmandu International Airport on your arrival.
Okay. Charging of equipments like mobile phone and things like should not be a problem in tea houses.
So Vinay, that works in two ways. So if in case somebody's opted for rooms with attached washrooms, those typically rooms also come with charging points. So charging is not a problem for the first few days. But in the last two locations, as I mentioned, which is Labuche and Gorakshep, where there are no rooms only with attached washrooms, charging is available on the common reception, but typically you have to pay for charging, which is about 300, anywhere between 300 to 400 Nepali rupees for an hour of charging. So because energy is a resource there that they sell. So uh, it's possible every day, except the last 2 days, you have to just pay at the reception and charge. So for what we recommend is that you carry a power bank. You don't have to really use a power bank the first few days because charging stations will be available. Last 2 days, if you have one good power bank of 10,000 mAh, it'll typically last you, and it is good to have a power bank with you.
Do you recommend to that we should carry camera or something? Because nowadays mobile phone takes good photographs. A camera will be additional accessory one has to carry. But do you recommend?
Vinay, it really depends on how passionate a photographer is someone. Like we still get people in our group, who want to carry like good quality DSLRs, even though, you're right, like the phones have the best cameras these days and it is just so convenient. But, there are these
Yeah.
really passionate photographers who would carry it. But yes, it does become a little bit of a liability because, after day five, your 4 kg backpack will anyways feel like 6 kgs because of the altitude. And
Yeah.
after day seven, you'll be like, I don't even want to carry my camera now. What do I do with it? So, unless you are really deep into photography, we would say don't carry it. The phones are enough. With the 12 people in the group, we'll have 12 different kind of phones with great cameras. So, of course, we'll make like a common shared folder of also all the pictures. So, not really recommended.
See. For hygiene point of view, I don't think taking shower is a option. So I mean, do you think that we need to carry a lot of wet wipes and all these?
No, that's a good question. I'm sure some other people also have that question. So the thing is that the first 3 days, Vinay, it is okay to take a shower because you're still under the 4,000 meter mark. But also depends on the weather of that day. If it is nice and sunny, then one can take a shower, and our team will be there and we'll be the ones to tell you that, listen, don't take a shower today. We'll tell you every day, listen, today you can take one. But in any case, after day three, which is
Mhm.
post Dabuche, in Dingboche, Labuche onwards in Gorakshep. The 6 days of the higher up in the mountain, we don't recommend to take a shower. Even if the facility is available, please don't take one because your body is not only acclimatizing to the oxygen, but also sometimes to the temperatures. And you don't want to be falling sick. So, first 3 days is possible. After that, yes. After that, it's all wet wipes, face wash, deodorants, and the endurance of your roommate of how much can they live with all the sweat. So, but yeah, it's interesting because for a lot of people, this also becomes a first. For a lot of people, of course, going up to 15, 18,000 feet is a first, but interestingly, people say, this is the first time in my life in the last 30 years, 40 years, I've not showered for 8 days, which is also, a great experience. For me personally, that
So
record
do
has
we
been
carry
45 days, but I hope you never reach that
Yes.
stage.
do we carry extra undergarments for that, or we just manage with the wet wipes and the inner thermals that you mentioned?
Sorry, Anand, can you say that again? Do we carry extra?
Undergarments.
Oh, yes, that definitely is required. Don't compromise
Okay.
on that. One pair for every day. T-shirts and jackets, you keep recycling because beyond a point, there's only so much so that you can carry. But yeah, don't compromise on your innerwear and stuff like that.
What about the toilet facilities? Do they have the Indian style or the Western style?
They have Western style through and
Initially.
through. All the days you will get Western and Indian, both options will be there. Uh, just the last 2 days, as I said, is a little bit of a struggle.
Hmm.
But other than that, you'll have both options available like through and through.
Okay.
Sairaj, I had a few questions.
Yes, Vinita, please go ahead. Vinita,
Yeah,
actually, on that note, I'm so sorry, but if you don't mind, I will actually have to request the entire group to just disconnect and reconnect on the same link immediately.
got it, got it.
Because I may just get disconnected at any point, and I'm sorry, Vinita, and then we can just start with your questions.
Yes.
So we can just
Yeah.
log back on.